Well, since people enjoyed the last nighttime drive so much, I thought we'd do another one. This is my 73 Marquis Brougham. There's the turn signal. And by this point, they had redone the dash on the Fords and Mercuries. This was the more serviceable dash. It's easy to change all the bulbs. These are actually still the original bulbs to my knowledge in here. They're obviously bright. And you can see the radio, the clock, the HVAC, etc. still illuminated well. The 73, I have to say, even rides better than the 71 and 72. I think Mercury kept making improvements to the ride all the way through kind of 1974. And then I would say 1974 to 1975 was the start of a regression. And the 75, 6, 7, and 8 models don't drive as nicely and aren't as quiet on the inside as the 73 and 74. I think are just the pinnacle of quiet. Here you can see the little high beam indicator on the dash. But this car is so whisper quiet. If you listen, all you can hear is a little bit of the exhaust. So I take my foot off the accelerator. I mean, you really don't even have any wind noise or road noise. The 71 and 2 are quiet, but the 3 and 4 are even quieter yet. And like I said, I think this represents the pinnacle if you're looking for ride comfort in your Mercury. One interesting thing about the Fords is when you turn the dial to kick on the overhead dome lights, so you can see inside my twin comfort lounge seats. On some of these, the instrument panel will go off. Not on this one. GM's never did. But I would say this car is kind of Lexus level quiet, modern day Lexus level quiet. There's so much sound deadening in here. There's even burlap bags in the rear quarters behind the door trim to try to muffle the noise from the tires, the rear tires when you're driving over pavement. And I have to say it works. It sounds crazy, but you really don't hear any tire noise or anything. The only thing in this car is you hear a little bit of an exhaust rumble. It's hard to get exhausts that are as quiet as the originals were, and I've tried to get as quiet of exhaust as I could, but nonetheless they still have a little bit of a rumble to them. I did put factory style duals on this car just to give the 460 a little bit more breathing room. This car does have the optional 460. The 460 was a Lincoln exclusive until partway through the 1972 model year when you could get it on the Mercuries. Then in 73 it was available as an option for the full year. The 429 was a standard engine in the Marquis. The 460 was optional, and it wasn't a really high take rate actually, but this car thankfully has it. Really wasn't much of a horsepower difference either between the 460 and the 429. A little bit more torque, maybe about 5 more horsepower. But the car is plenty peppy. I think 1973 was also the inaugural year where Ford retarded the cam timing on the 429s and 460s. So if you ever have to replace the plastic phenolic timing gear, which I would recommend doing, probably end up replacing this one soon. This car's got about 50,000 miles and that gear is old. I usually replace it when I replace the water pump, and the water pumps on these start to get a little bit of free play around this mileage. This one doesn't have any yet, interestingly. I'll have to check to see if it was replaced at some point. I haven't really looked closely. But if you replace the water pump, I highly recommend replacing that gear with a metal gear. That way you never have to worry about it. And these cars are otherwise quite reliable, aside from the Autolite 4300 carburetor under hood, which this one is still sporting, so I still do employ them, but I have to say I don't really care for them compared to the Quadrajets. Well, this one is well behaved, more well behaved than some of the other ones. I actually haven't had to rebuild this carburetor yet, and I've had this car probably 10 years, and it idles smoothly, it still has good acceleration, everything works. And on one of these cars, if the carburetor is working fine, just don't touch it. Sometimes they become like unrebuildable. It's really weird. I've had a couple of them where I've tried to clean them and soak them, and they just get dirt in a passage or something happens, and you can't do anything about it, and you have to put a rebuilt carburetor on, and then you're fine and dandy, or send it off to a professional rebuilder. Sometimes I guess even the dip buckets can't necessarily dissolve everything. These cars still are so underappreciated. You can get one of these big Mercury coupes of the era for relatively little dollars. Somewhere around $10,000 can buy you a really nice copy. I bought this car, oh my gosh, like I said, about 10 years ago now. It's hard to believe, in West Virginia. And the owner had babied it. He never drove it in any inclement weather, and he just took great care of it. And so as a consequence, it was hard to pass up. I think back then I probably paid maybe $6,000 for it, $6,500, something like that. And it had 45,000 miles, and now it's got 52,000. Of course, I don't drive it in inclement weather. It's just a pure fair weather cruiser. I will say one other thing. The Ford 9-inch rear ends of the previous years had a little bit of rear end whine, generally around 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. But these 73s and 74s, they seemingly tuned all of that out, because this one does not have any rear end whine at all. And you're just up to speed so quickly. And the engine doesn't even rev. It's hilarious. I don't even think it topped 2,500 RPM accelerating there. So again, if you're looking for just a great, fun cruiser, there's not much that can be beat for the dollars. And you know, this is a great, I'll call it starter collector car, because you're not going to pay much money. And you know what? I'm obviously a mature collector and have a lot of cars. I love driving these. You know, I love my 66 Tornado as an example, but it doesn't drive anywhere nearly as well as this car does. It's not as quiet. The engine's nice. The engine and the transmission of the Tornado are nice. I will give it that. But in terms of overall quietness and comfort, oh man. You get one with the twin comfort lounge seats from 71 to 73. Those really cannot be beat. Ford only had those for such a brief period of time, and they're just extra comfy and make the trip so much better. I do love the kind of green glow that you see here of these lights. You don't get that anymore. It's kind of a shame. Now you get all these digital screens and everything. I don't know why the automakers have to have that in every car. Just put some regular gauges back in. It probably would cost less money too. I don't really prefer the digital dash and gauges over the standard analog ones. I think the analog ones look better. Oh well, I doubt they're listening to me. But put a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. What do you think of this dash? This was, like I said, this was a common dash between Ford and Mercury. They redid for the 1973 model year. It's not as nice as the previous model year. Like I said, it's commonized. Big glove box. Big glove overall, still a great car to drive. Hope you enjoyed this nighttime drive. People liked the last one so much, I thought I would do another one. These cars are just so much fun to drive at night. Till next time, take care.